I have just successfully scaled the walls of Khiva. Genghis Khan wishes he were me. I don't know if I'm supposed to be up here. Here on an Uzbek sleeper train now, taking the ride from Bukhara all the way to Khiva. It's empty now as everyone has left. They got off at the stop Urgench, which is a much more local city, not too much touristic stuff going on, but because it's the low tourist season, not many people going to Khiva right now because it is punishingly hot. But here's a quick tour of the train that I just spent about 6 hours in. Just got 20 more minutes to go. You've got, this is the sleeper class where you have 6 beds per compartment. Got like 2 there, and then this one that turns into a little table. And you got the top bunk, which is where I was. Unfortunately, it was a very uncomfortable little seat because I couldn't sit up at all, and I got only a tiny sliver of window. But now I've moved to a bottom bunk for the last bit. This ticket cost me about like $13 for the ride. It's air conditioned too, which is nice. Now at the Khiva train station. It's another beautiful station. This is my stunning hostel, Hostel Carousel, located inside a madrasa here in the middle of one of Khiva's central parks. Just an absolutely beautiful place to stay. Hard to believe that this is a hostel. Hostel Carousel, although that is indeed a Ferris wheel up there. It's in a madrasa built in 1864, just a very cool place. Let me give you a room tour. And the room here at the Carousel Hostel. 4-bed dorms, but separated by this little gateway, so it's almost like 2-bed dorms. There's the bathroom. Very nice, cute decor. Everything you need. Hooks, even a TV. Yeah, and it feels like you're in a cave, like it's massive. Entering the walls of Khiva for the first time. Streets of Khiva, very labyrinthine. Again, another city just feels straight out of Aladdin. Khiva was undeniably beautiful. One could argue that it is even more beautiful than Samarkand and Bukhara. But I don't know if I had just had my fill of Central Asian architecture by then, but it did not captivate me in the same way that Bukhara and Samarkand did. I found Khiva to be a very sleepy city overall, amplified by the summer heat where you could wander through the old town during the midday and not see another person. Now, this could be a good thing because, fewer tourists, better photos, but I am a person who feeds off of other people's energies, and outside of maybe 2 to 3 hours in the late afternoon and evening, Khiva just did not have any energy whatsoever. It also felt very curated. It lacked the authenticity of Bukhara that, while imperfect, gave it its own charm, character, and a unique spirit to it. Bukhara felt like you were actually visiting a city where people lived and children played. Within the walls of Khiva, it all felt a little too touched up for tourism, and for me it just took away the enchantment and wonder of being in a distant, far-off land that by all means was extremely beautiful, but it gave me a sense of deja vu that I was wandering through the historic Fabrika neighborhood of Mykonos or something. It was also the most overpriced destination that I visited in Uzbekistan. Like, no matter where I went in Bukhara, Samarkand, and Tashkent, the prices were fair. Even in restaurants that clearly catered to tourists, it was only a slight markup. My first meal in Khiva, I paid 85,000 som for a plov, something that, at most should be less than half of that price. Throw in a beer for 50,000, again twice as much as I'd been paying at even the fanciest of restaurants here, and I've had my most expensive meal here in Uzbekistan, and it's just a plate of rice and a single beer. Again, it came with a nice view, but Khiva was the first place in Uzbekistan that I felt like tourists were being milked for money. Don't even get me started on the citywide ticket that you have to pay about $20 for, whereas previous cities you could choose which attractions you wanted to pay for, and therefore just had to throw $3 or $4 at whatever looked interesting. Khiva, it is all or nothing, and unfortunately, I chose nothing. It could have been just general burnout from such an overload of architecture and art from the previous cities that I couldn't be bothered, but even researching the places that were included in the ticket, it just didn't really seem worth it. Not to mention that you still have to pay extra for pretty much the best things to do in Khiva, like an extra $8 just to go up the minaret for a nice view, and another $8 to go up this tower on the city walls, so it just quickly adds up, and personally, I was perfectly satisfied to enjoy the sights and sounds of Khiva from the ground level.
Just feels like in Bukhara, everything was pretty cheap to get into. All the prices were still local, and Samarkand, it was kind of expected, like it's the most famous place in Uzbekistan, and even then, most things were reasonably priced, 50,000, 60,000 som, and there was more to look at than just climbing a tower. So Khiva, very beautiful, but so far hasn't been my favorite. Like, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of excellent things about Khiva, and I really do like it here. I feel like perhaps if it was my first stop, then I would be go going to all of the things, but it's my fourth stop. I've been in Uzbekistan for 3 weeks already, and
however, Khiva was not all that bad. Don't let me sour you on this destination, because one of the coolest things I did in Uzbekistan was while I was right here in Khiva. Let's go explore some ancient Khwarezmian desert fortresses, y'all.
Alright, today we are in the desert exploring ancient fortresses. It is wild, very different than anything we've done in Uzbekistan so far. All the historical stuff that we've seen so far, it's been, restored, rebuilt, and here we're in the desert where everything is just, this doesn't look like much, but at one point was a powerful desert outpost. Just now, on the side of the road. It was a brutal decision to pick the hottest day of the week to do our desert exploration. It's gonna be 105 later. And this is more hiking than I assumed, especially in sand. But wow, here we are at the Itchan Kala fortress. Not much to see. I think it's probably low on the priorities list of current archaeological projects in Uzbekistan, but just our first stop of the day. Definitely a bit of a hike to get up here, especially in this midday heat. Well over 100 degrees now. There's the parking lot. I already hiked a fair bit, but look how empty the landscapes are. Just nothing for miles and miles around except for this one massive desert outpost behind me. The Ayaz Kala fortress, one of the most imposing structures I've ever seen, just jutting out of the Uzbekistan desert. Incredible. Can't catching post-hike rest under one of the only patches of shade here at the Ayaz Kala fortress. Incredible. Just the landscapes are so vast. Another ancient fortress now. This one is called Toprak Kala. Small, but really cool as well. Again, I will look more into the history so I can do a proper voiceover. It's kind of overwhelming going to all these places one after the other, and our driver doesn't speak English, so he can't really explain any of what we're seeing. So it's up to us, and there's not really anything marked. I think right now Uzbekistan is focusing on re-beautifying their cities, but I feel like once they realize the gem they have of these ancient desert fortresses and how people would love to see these, like right now there's no entrance fees, there's not really any public transport to get there, there's absolutely nothing, no signs, no information, nothing, so you really just pull up and walk right in. Of course you have to pay for the driver, but well worth it for how much you get to see in one day. I think this place is just insane. Feels very labyrinthine here. The Kyzyl Kala fortress, our fifth and final fortress of the day. Honestly, I am beat. It is currently the peak of the sun, about 2 p.m. According to the car, it was around 115 degrees Fahrenheit, 46 degrees Celsius, which is absolutely masochistic to be out and about exploring in the desert, hiking around. But it is so worth it. I'd recommend getting an earlier start. It was a very spontaneous decision. 10 a.m. we decided to go. So by the time we actually got to the fortresses, it was already extremely hot, but absolutely worth it. If you are in Khiva or Ganj, Samarkand, make sure to visit these incredible desert fortresses of Uzbekistan. Just absolutely epic. Wow. This is absolutely unreal. Can't believe that I'm here right now. This is straight out of a movie, Indiana Jones, Lara Croft. Wow. Add it to your bucket list, y'all.
These desert fortresses were the undisputed highlight of Khiva for me. It took about 2 hours to get to the first desert fortress, and from there, it was about 20 minutes between each one. So it is a lot of driving, but absolutely worth it. I think there are tours that you can book from Khiva, but an older Chinese gentleman from the hostel and I just decided to split the costs of hiring a driver, so we paid about $25 each to be chauffeured around from ancient fortress to fortress. It was truly such a cool experience, and we met some people native to the region who were very friendly. This part of the country is Karakalpakstan, which is an autonomous republic here in Uzbekistan, historically famed for being the ancestral lands of the Khwarezmian Empire, and the culture and language is much different than what you'll find throughout the rest of Uzbekistan. There are over 50 of these Khwarezmian fortresses scattered throughout Karakalpakstan, but 5 was good enough for us because it was boiling hot and we were ready to cool down. Perhaps visiting the desert during the hottest months of the year was a questionable choice, but Khiva and Uzbekistan do have some nice ways to cool off during the day. One of my favorite ways was to hang out at a local chaikhana or tea house.
One of my favorite things about Uzbekistan is their chaikhana culture, which is tea house, and it's just these little local establishments where you sit on a tapchan, which is these little cushioned kind of rectangular tables. You just sit down, have some tea, eat some food, and just relax. And it is perfect for people like me who love to lay down after eating, and especially in the summer when it's nearly 100 degrees all throughout the day. You just need one of these places where you can kind of have a little siesta in the afternoon and soak in all of the wonderful vibes that Uzbekistan has to offer.
Overall, I did enjoy my time in Khiva, but I do think that I stayed for a little too long. Even with the full day getaway into the desert, I think 4 days in Khiva was a bit too much. But to get here, it's one of the longer train journeys, about 6 hours from Bukhara, assuming everything goes smoothly. And if you're heading back to Tashkent, there are no bullet trains, and it will be a doozy of a 15-hour ride back if you're lucky. So you've got to be committed, and that's why I stayed for longer than I needed to. I just assumed if I ran out of things to do, I could just sit around and vibe, but just keep in mind that I'd say a day to see Khiva and a day to explore the desert fortresses will be sufficient. Otherwise, you'll just be spending the afternoons laying down in tea houses like myself, which I encourage you all to do anyway because I cannot think of much better ways to spend a day than alternating between eating and laying down. Anyway, that is the quaint, charming town of Khiva and the spectacular Khwarezmian desert fortresses. Thank you guys so much for watching. Rahmat to any viewers out there from Uzbekistan. Do not forget to toss over a like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button so you can stay tuned for the Central Asia backpacking adventures and all of the exciting things to come from the Silk Road, Central Asia, and my life in general as a full-time backpacker and nomad. Coming up next on our Silk Road adventures, we are about to touch down in a totally new country, Kazakhstan. See you all on the next video.